Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game, the podcast where I, your host, Connor McCabe, bring on a guest to hear from them about a meaningful or memorable video game from a particular moment in their life. This is a podcast about what makes video games special to different people. A little bit of housekeeping that we have up top is that anything that my guest or I plug on the show today, you're going to be able to find in a link in the show notes wherever you're listening. So if you're watching on YouTube or you are listening on the Apple Podcasts app, scroll down and click a link to whatever you want to find, whether it be someone's website or even a link to our Patreon, which is one of the best places you can support us. If you like me in the conversations I have with people about video games and you want more bonus video game podcasts, head on over to patreon.com/supernpcradio. Find a tier that works for you and that's sustainable, and get some bonus video game podcasts or a chance to vote in our elections. You can see the details of what's in there. We haven't talked about it in a minute, but one of the bonuses you get at the $10 DJ Toad tier is a monthly roundtable style discussion, a version of the show, the co-op series, where I bring on people to talk about a game that we have played in a series. This year we've been covering indie games, and on the most recent episode that's actually out for free, so if you subscribe to us on Patreon even for free, you can see it, or you can watch it on YouTube as well. Courtney Vinay's, our dear friend and voice actor in Hades 2 of the god Aphrodite, guest hosted a whole episode on Balatro. It was a wonderful episode featuring a few of our former guests on the show, some fan favorites. But yeah, check us out on Patreon. You might find something that you really like, and that will do it. I'll finally introduce our guest for today's episode. Folks, I'm pleased to tell you we've got a returning champion. Please welcome filmmaker and Philadelphia representative Michael Hearn. Welcome, buddy.
Appreciate the Philly shout out. Hello, everyone.
You know, we've got to get one in there every so often just to remind the people where your heart is from.
Yes, from Philly specifically.
There we go. Hearn, I teed it up a little bit, but you know, you are just a storied guest on the history of this podcast. You've been on a bunch of co-op episodes. You've been on 2 regular episodes of the show as well. You were also, the episode I originally had you on was on the run where we would record in person at Jeremy's house. Mm-hmm. And that was for episode 15 when I had you on to discuss Doom. Hearn, do you mind if I go through your entire catalog of episodes on this podcast?
I would love that. This will be informative for me too, because I probably forgot.
There are like 8 or 9 here, so I wouldn't be surprised.
This is my lore. Yeah.
Exactly. So I already said you were on episode 15 where you brought on Doom to discuss your first solo episode. You were also on episode 222 for the top 10 favorite games of all time, part 8, where you, Michael McCaller, and Roxy Polk came on. That's already been, I think, about a year and a half ago or so.
Yeah, that was the more recent one, I think. And yeah, that was all a blast. Good smattering of variety there.
Yes. And now
the 3 of us.
I'm going to run down your co-op episodes. You've been on 6, Hearn.
Ooh.
We have, so I'm just going to blow through these really quick. We have co-op episode 7, where we discussed Celeste. That was your first appearance. We had co-op episode 15, Super Metroid, co-op episode 25, Neon White, which actually just released on the free feed, I think, saw that, yes. Like 2 weeks ago. So if you're listening now and you want to hear that, go back and listen, folks. And then we started a bit of a trend where I had you and the Half-Life crew on to discuss Half-Life in co-op episode 33. So literally each of the last 3 years in the month of March you've been on.
Nice.
And then we discussed Half-Life 2 on co-op episode 45, where we were doing our sequels series. And then most recently, this year on co-op episode 57, what many people are calling the Half-Life 3 of our lives, Untitled Goose Game.
Yes.
So a ton of fun. Hearn, you made many appearances on the show. You know, people also are probably very familiar with you from your just general appearances on Video Games, a comedy show. But buddy, what do you want to share with people who are listening right now, and what do you want to tell them about yourself or even plug today?
Yeah, in general, I am a big time guest on your guys' shows, and I've always been a fan and always enjoy myself, and it's always been a hoot. And mainly, besides that, especially since let me restart that. when I started this podcast with you guys, I was more involved in the comedy scene than I currently am. But I'm moving, like, in generally, I've been more into filming lately and trying to be making my mark as a filmmaker. And I mean, I was doing that back in UCB anyways, but now it's like, well, that's my only real thing now. So you can look me up at michaelchearn.com. Connor said he promised, and even that there would be links in this description.
Oh, there so will. If you think my computer, my browser doesn't autofill that website, you got another thing coming, Hearn.
That's fair. Oh, I'm your favorite M site. That's good to know.
Of course.
Yeah, no, you can look at all my short films there, and then you can follow me on Blue Sky at MC Hearn, and I usually talk about movies, games, stuff I'm into there, political spheres, and my opinions on them. Trying to be more active in general that way. But yeah, that's my thing. That's pretty much me in LA. Like, I'm running around, I'm watching movies, playing games, and trying to keep in touch with you guys those ways.
Dude, I love it. Like I promised so sincerely, I will put a link to your website there. But dude, it's great to have you on. We are about to discuss your more recent history with video games. If people want to hear, you know, a big summary, but like honestly, a pretty good summary of the majority of your history up until, you know, your first appearance on the show, that they can listen to episode 15 to do that. Before we do, Hearn, I would love it if you would tee up the game you've brought on for the main event later.
Sure.
And call me by your game.
All right, like Connor said, if you want to hear my full lore of how I became a gamer, that's my prior Doom episode. Doom, of course, a very personal favorite, and I was happy to bring that bit back for the Game of the Year episode of Video Games and Comedy Show last year.
I wanted it to win so bad, Hearn.
I was happy to let it go because I'm just happy I got to do the bit.
Yes.
But I'm grateful I did. So the game I brought on for this episode is called Stuntman Ignition.
Nice.
It's the second in the Stuntman series. So far, the last one in the Stuntman series. They should bring it back. But it's a very fun game by this company called Havoc, and we'll get into what exactly it's about. But the shorthand pitch of it is you are a stunt driver for the movies, and each level is a different movie scene you are doing.
Awesome. Dude, well, I can't wait to get into it on the main event later. It was really fun doing research for it, and of course, I was really pleased as punch to see that this has something to do with the movies, one of your biggest loves.
It's an undersung favorite of mine just in general, but yes, the catnip of it too is that it's very, like, it knows what it's doing with its movie inside jokes, and it's having fun with it. Awesome.
Well, dude, getting into your more recent history with games, on this first half of the podcast, I would love to know, have you, to start with a more broad question, since your first appearance up until now, have you seen any like big trends or swings in video games for you, whether it be how you play, the platforms you play on, or even genres you may have gotten into? I'll open that up for you.
Sure, thank you. The biggest one, of course, is that I am with a partner named Kelsey, and her history with video games has been a lot thinner than mine. Obviously, she was not a big gamer girl growing up. She has a couple favorites, but like they're very like simple, like very back in that time. You okay there?
Yeah.
Sorry, I did.
No, it's okay. Pause. My very delicious iced coffee went down the wrong pipe as I interrupt you. Sorry, buddy.
Connor was just taken aback by the idea of someone not being obsessed with video games.
I'm like, this is absurd.
But so during pandemic especially, I was getting back into some games with her. Like, I would try to play games here and there with her, but I think it's just that level of, you know, getting yourself into a whole form that you're only kind of thin on. But during the pandemic was a big time for us because I got a Wii from a Facebook Marketplace purchase, and we were getting into Wii Sports a lot during pandemic. And then I think just in general from that and some other things we've done, me and Kelsey have really got into Fortnite as our big game of choice. Right. But that alone has kind of made her like an actual, like, can play games, understands the language of games, can do the 2 dual sticks, move around and looking around. Like, so
that's
it's
a huge barrier for some people.
Yes, because like her big experiences were all like earlier 2D games. Like, she can still play like beat 'em ups without much like explanation. Like, we've been replaying some of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games too, and stuff like that. But like, so old school games wasn't that hard for her, and some of her references were that too. Like, she knows Donkey Kong Country pretty well, for example. But like, when it came to that barrier of like I want to play a co-op game from more recent years that's like in 3D, like it was hard to get her involved. But Fortnite has been like the real easy pick up and play, and she's gotten so attuned to the controls of that like she can now hold her own very well, and we do like a lot of fun gaming that way. Have some friends that we play and talk to online when we do that. And other than that, like other classes she likes, like she can play Mario Kart, for example, too.
Yeah.
Mario Kart World has been a favorite of ours. So that was probably the biggest gaming trend, is having a partner that I can play pretty consistently games with, and not just in front of. And so that's been fun. Then I guess personally, the two other things, and one of the later ones that I'll bring up is what kind of brought this game back a little bit into my life, is basically I've been more investing in specific tech, like as niche as I can get. The obvious thing, and I brought it to a party here, is that I bought Rock Band, like the whole Rock Band kit caboodle set for Xbox 360 to play games that way. I invested in technology I never got to try. Like I got to get a Kinect, I had a PlayStation VR, like stuff like that. I've been getting into analog, obviously, as we all have. I got a PS Vita, which was the big
that's right.
I never had before. And
Do you have a blue Vita?
Yeah, I have a blue, baby blue Japanese Vita that I didn't realize was hacked until Jeremy pointed out, like, yeah, it's already ready for you. And I'm like, oh, nice. So
awesome.
I didn't have to figure it out, and I just got to like emulate games I never got to play. And then that's the later trend for me, is that I've been figuring out emulation a lot more sincerely, modern day emulation, because of a couple things, mainly that like I want to be able to play a lot of games I haven't missed out on without having to go to Game Dude and spend all my paycheck. But I've been wanting to just look into like what communities are doing in the hacking communities. The obvious thing being like there are fan translations of games that never got released. And I mean, some of that has been fair weather, like in my past couple of years, like the big one being like, oh, I bought the actual cartridge of Mother Free.
So I think the first time I ever saw someone demo that was you, like at one of Jeremy's many places.
You know how we do in those parties. I whip out my Game Boy and we just staring at it.
Absolutely.
I've been getting into stuff with that. I've been finding out about like ROM hacks and things people have been doing with games.
Fun.
I've been trying out different emulators. Like I even put a screenshot of me and Kelsey did new Mii's, and you asked me on DMing if that was me trying out my Wii U or something. It's on my PC, because I figured out how to use a Wii emulator that uses the actual hardware Wiimotes and stuff to try it out. And I've been just sort of like fine-tuning that, because I want to be able, again, to play games with Kelsey but not have to dig out all my hardware, even though I still have it and still collect it. So yeah, that's been my latest trend, is really figuring out that new level of emulation, because it's advanced a lot over my years. I grew up in a time where to mod your PlayStation you had to open it up and solder a hard drive, like a chip to your motherboard or something. Now you can download a program from the internet, find ROMs easily. I'm telling everyone you should go steal games. It's easy to do. It's fun. But no, I'm doing it mostly for games that you can't get elsewhere. So playing a lot of games that are hard to find elsewhere. This is a decent mix. Stuntman is going to be a decent mix of, I recently played the PlayStation 2 emulation of it that I never got to play before. But you can easily get it on Microsoft Store, and I'm going to recommend. I should put that at the start too. Like, hey, it goes on sale on Microsoft Store every now and then. Get it when you can. But that's been my latest trend, is just really investing in like the technical sphere of it all, and keeping up with like what people are doing with that, looking into stuff like that. And there's still blind spots. Like we have friends who do Steam Decks that I have not gotten into yet. We have like all sorts of like off market like portable things you can play with. I think one of our friends has a Playdate, which I've always been meaning to check out. Yeah, and stuff like that. I think it's just a good era. Like I think maybe the like latest couple of generations being so long as they were, I think it just left it up to the fans to figure out what they could do in the meantime to like keep our itch for investing in new technology for gaming has gone. So that's been my latest like investment, and kind of the bridge that I'm using Stuntman to talk about.
That's great. That's so thorough too. I would love to know, being that you've said a couple times how you have really invested and explored technology, whether it be hardware or emulation or even software. When it comes to maybe like a specific game or games, through this exploration and discovery, has there been like a big surprise for you of a game that you've really enjoyed, whether that you maybe wouldn't have found previously?
That's a fair point. So a couple things too, like some of the thing that I do appreciate about emulation is the community aspect. So there's websites about this, like you can go on retroachievements.org is one website I use sometimes of like what people are doing, what like ROM hats are very popular. And it's very communal. Like you can play a game and have like compete against leaderboards for like old school games. Like, so like you could be fighting against people about how big your WarioWare stores or something.
Okay.
But I guess it's mostly right now and a big one for me too is that there've been a couple like natural reasons I've been investing in emulation. One was that my PS2 didn't read its discs as well anymore. My PS2 Slim I got, so I started looking on how I could emulate PlayStation 2, which had been like, again, a dream back in the days. So now it's very easy to do. So I was playing a lot of like Japanese games I never got to play before that have been translated. I got to play some random games that I never played before that I wanted to seek out on PS2 and got that way. And then the other thing too is that I told you about this was you can get a emulation for your phone, your iPhone, and you can play DS games or certain like Game Boy games that use technology like tilting on your phone that use your actual touchscreen and gyroscope. So I've been playing like WarioWare Twisted on my phone occasionally, or like DS games that use a touchscreen. It's hard to pinpoint a specific game that really like amazed me with that, other than like the fact that I can do it, because these are games I knew about obviously, but I guess the main thing with like the community aspect of something like Retro Achievements is that like they will like vote on and you'll play like a game you never played before. Like for PlayStation 2 I played a couple games, like a helicopter rescue game called City Crisis. I played a port of one of the Ys game, YS, from like Super Nintendo that was in Japan for PS2 that I never played before. And sometimes it'll be like something like I haven't played that version of this game. Like the big one for this was I wanted to replay Stuntman Ignition. I have it 100% on my Xbox 360. Never tried the PS2 port and was always curious about it, so I emulated it, and a combo of it being on emulation probably made it better to run. But yeah, I played it through that way and 100% it all over again.
That's cool.
I love that game. So that's been the big recent game, and that's why it came to mind when you were asking me about this. But also, I feel like it has a lot of conversation, both of what the game is and why it's been bridging this, like my first experience from this game to my latest. And
yes, fantastic.
How you can keep gaming alive in your own life is my thesis, I say.
I love that. I've got a couple more questions to ask you during this segment. First of which is kind of a basic, boring question, but what's had your attention lately, game-wise? Have you been like diving into something deep or just fiddling around with something else?
Lately, not too like. I mean, the Wii thing recently for like my personal thing. Do you mean like current like gaming 2025 and on?
Yeah.
Or you just mean I guess the obvious thing is Switch 2. You got the games for that. Donkey Kong Bonanza I blasted through. We play Mario Kart. And yeah, just looking on the horizon for what Nintendo will do that with that ES year. And that's pretty much been my like current up-to-date spending money involvement.
Yes.
The other obvious stuff is just good indie games that I've been checking out and finding. I've been playing Road Prince of Persia a lot on PlayStation.
Oh, really?
Which is very like... It's by the Dead Cells people, and you can see like the language of Dead Cells on Prince of Persia. And I think those, like the way the subscriptions have like been emphasizing those types of games have been good too. So that's been a good later involvement. But for like just personal like investment, especially since I kind of have gaming as the like lone hobby outside of film, is like just like really trying to open up the world. So if there's anything I want to seek out in gaming, I can. So that's what emulation's been doing. So really, emulation has been my like
amazing
little hobby of it.
I love that. The final question that I have for you is, what is a game that you are looking forward to playing? Something that you're anticipating. And I'll open this up a little bit so you can choose how to answer. This could be something that's unreleased that you're looking forward to, or something that's in your backlog.
Yeah, the obvious stuff is like the new Metroid Prime. I really want to get into that. But kind of what I've been really personally trying to figure out with the Wii emulation is there are tons of Wii games that I've never like invested in, sat down and done. There's even like games I bought for like Wii U when the eShop was closing that I've been meaning to play, like the Wii version of Resident Evil 4, for instance. I've always been curious about. Never tried. I want to make sure the hardware is fine-tuned so I can actually do like the aiming and everything proper. And I want to play it that way because I just played the remake recently. It's fun, and I know the original is fun, but if I'm going to go back to the original, I want to try the Wii version I never played before. Want to see what that's like.
Oh, dude. Interject really quick, you're okay. Please. I was at the start, I think the first like half of our Resident Evil 4 Remake Games Club earlier this year, I was playing the Wii version alongside it, and I think I got about maybe a little more than half, maybe like 2/3 or like 3/5 of the way through, and it is such an awesome like arcade Resident Evil style experience. I highly recommend it.
Awesome, because that is an underrated element of the Wii, is that they had a good like arcade rollout of games, of like done games, and that seems so natural for the Wii, but it's surprisingly like a small library. You would think it'd be much more expansive. But that's the big one. And then also, again, like eShop has closed. How am I ever going to get to play some of those games that I never got to play? Emulation, baby.
Yes.
There are WiiWare games that I never got the chance to play, can't get a chance to buy anymore. That, like remakes of Castlevania, a Blaster Master game I never played before, and they're all available to play on emulation with actual hardware involved. And so that's a big one I'm going to look forward to, is like actually delving into libraries that if I wanted to give my money to, I can't. So I might as well look into it. And maybe they'll hear all this hype and do it. I mean, they're bringing back the Virtual Boy. That should be my actual like, what am I looking most forward to? And like, well, I'm gonna eventually get that Virtual Boy and sit down with my Switch 2 and block out the world and play Wario Land.
And you're someone who it's possible it came up on your first episode, but you still own a Virtual Boy, even if it's not with you currently. Correct. Like you own one and are like kind of the expert that I know, at least.
I'm surprised. I was just on Friends of the Pod, Nintendo Cartridge Society, talking about the Virtual Boy. Patrick has a good history with it too, and I would argue he's kind of like a more real fan because he actually paid for it with his own money, whereas I got it because it was on clearance at the end of the year at a Blockbuster from my dad. But yeah, like I consider it like one of my earliest niche like interests, and it's a good like talking about Doom. I brought up my dad a little bit too. It does cross over with my dad's technological interests. That like it was like an interesting cross paths of like I wanted to try these new weird games, and he wanted to see what this new weird technology was. So that can all come in full circle on this episode. Yes,
it's so funny that there had just been so much Virtual Boy remembrance this last year. Maybe because it was like the 35th anniversary or 30th.
Yeah. It's like the 30th U.S. anniversary,
95.
And then, which I believe it's the world. I don't know why I specified U.S. But yeah, it's like the 30th anniversary, and I don't know, like Nintendo could pretend it doesn't exist like it does with so many things, like F-Zero or something. But they brought it back, and they're doing a rollout, and I mean, good on them.
I agree. I would have never expected them to acknowledge it in such a significant way, let alone make these games somewhat accessible to people now.
Somewhat.
Well, Hearn, dude, thank you for walking me through some of your recent history with games. That was awesome, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll finally get into all things Stuntman Ignition. So, Hearn, I'll see you on the other side.
See you there.
Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game. Connor McCabe returning to the microphone after the break with my guest Michael Hearn. Michael, hello.
Hello.
Finally, it's time to really dive into all things Stuntman Ignition. Hearn, like I was telling you before the show, there's a reason for the video viewer or people to be a video viewer on our YouTube channel.
Because I'm handsome. No, because I'm holding a
copy of the game. Hearn's dashingly good looks, but also he's holding up an Xbox 360 copy of it, of the game today. I'm going to dive into some history and context of this to set the table for the listener. But Hearn, if you want to jump in or add some information, I'll definitely pause at points to give you the chance. But you've got the green light, buddy.
Thank you.
Without further ado, here we go. Stuntman Ignition is an action racing game developed by, I had written down Paradigm Entertainment, but you also said a group called Havoc helped with the development?
Yeah, but it's a little blue symbol next to Havoc, if you can see it maybe.
Oh, sure. There we go.
That's Paradigm.
That's a little
Yeah.
Paradigm.
THQ. Yeah, Paradigm.
Yes. This game, published by THQ originally for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360 in August 2007, and was followed up weeks later with a port for the PlayStation 3. In the game, the player acts as a stunt driver, performing different stunts for scenes in fictional movies, and must do their best to complete as many actions requested from the director of the movie as possible to, rack up a high score and whatnot. This game is a follow-up to another title just called Stuntman, originally released in 2002 by a different developer called Reflections Interactive and published by Infogrames under the Atari label. This was at least the IP was sold, which is why this sequel was made. Stuntman Ignition takes the premise of Stuntman and amplifies it by gamifying the concept for a more arcade style of stunt performance game. The player can achieve higher scores in scenes by stringing together actions, hitting goals, and beating timers. It also has more loose and comedic tone than the original game. There are 6 films total in each that must be completed, and the game includes a stunt park creator mode, a multiplayer feature, and has a new strike system which allows the director of a scene to call for the entire thing to be reshot if the player fails, I believe, getting 3 strikes. Must be. You might even be able to shed light on this, Hearn. Is that if you have like a significant screw up in the level?
Yeah, basically it's like your life point of the game, because it's hard to do that. But you have different marks to always want to hit, different stunts you always want to do in the level, but you can miss like up to 4 of them before the 5th one, and then the director's like, no, redo. And that's basically your life for that level. Yeah,
as if you would be doing this whole scene in one take.
But that is the big fiction of this game, yes.
Yes.
It's very ridiculous, but yes.
But hey, I can suspend some disbelief for this fun. Lastly, the game received fairly positive reviews despite having a different aim than the original Stuntman but the game did have disappointing sales numbers according to THQ, and was determined that the franchise would not continue, as Hearn hinted at earlier. Also, as you said, Hearn, this is the final of 2 games for the franchise. Before we dive into your personal history with it, are there any details you feel like would be important to include in this context?
Just to shout out, like to explain a little bit about the first game, is that it was a very forward-thinking game in that, like, what it wanted to do. It was originally by the same people who made the Driver games.
Yes.
And then the big thing about Stuntman is that it was only for PS2, and it is a very, like, so forward-thinking that the hardware wasn't good for it. I remember renting that one from Blockbuster, and the levels, like, if you mess up, it took forever for it to reload the level.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that was for a game that perfectionist, and that, like, trying to get, like, your ins and, like, the trial and error, and, like, for you to really understand the level, that was very definitely bad for it, and it just wasn't as creative as this game goes. So
yes,
I highly recommend Stuntman Ignition. You don't have to bother with the original Stuntman.
You talking about emulation earlier, I wonder if emulation would help the experience of the first game if you could reduce those load times.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, dude, thank you for including that bit of detail. But let's dive into your history.
Sure.
How did this game come into your life?
All right. Like I said before, I did play the original back in, like, the PS2 era, renting games from Blockbuster, just trying out whatever. Stuntman seemed like it had a good appeal to me, and I rented it. And I didn't get very far because, like I said, the idea was interesting, but it was relatively rudimentary, and it was very, like, held back by the hardware. So I kind of just forgot about it, moved on. And then when the Xbox 360 era, I was still gaming relatively hard, still renting games, still seeking them out. That was also an early time for indie games. With the Xbox Live Online stuff. I got into this because, again, I still had Blockbuster. I still went there and checked out games, and I saw this, rented it on a whim, and I was ready to be like, well, let's just see if this even does the thing. And I dug it so much, and this is only 1 of 2 games I've done this with. They had a DLC on the store. I bought it before I even finished the game because I just wanted to keep it going. I only did this with SteamWorld Heist, I believe, is the only other game I didn't think of this. And this has the benefit that I was renting the game, so like it wasn't like I spent a $60 on the game and got the DLC as well. So that was me putting my money a little bit towards them, like a little thing.
Yes.
But yeah, the concept of the game, like I think just naturally like had an interest in me, as like I liked good like kind of arcadey racing games that have like a kind of idea to it, like the Outrun games or Forza Motorsport and Horizon, Beetle Adventure Racing.
Of course.
But no, I think just the idea of like racing not against like other people but against the clock to do stunts was a cool idea, and that like obviously it being the idea of like you're doing all these different movies as action scenes that are like prolonged, but it's as a car or a vehicle that you're doing. Just like it was a really interesting idea, and I was hoping it did it well, and if you ask me, it does it excellently. It's very clever. Like you said, the expansion of even just like the comical tone of it adds to it because it's not taking itself too seriously, and it's like doing fun little bits. I even replayed this recently, and I noticed jokes I hadn't noticed before. Like you'll do a movie that's shot in a different country, and the director voice actor will be obviously a voice like that sounds like a French director because you're in France, and he's saying different types of insults if you mess up, or praising you in different ways if you do it well. So I think there was a lot of like thought and craft into just like the fine details of it.
Yes.
While still creating like this fun system loop of you're racing against the clock, you're doing stunts, you're threading them together by like a flexibility of doing additional like little mini stunts of some sort of like crazy taxi style, like, oh, you drove pretty close to that other car, here's some points, or you got to pop up on your wheels again, so here's some more points. Like other ways to like keep your speed going. So it's got that like Tony Hawk kind of like system to it of like you can do like your stunts and get a few points, and that's nice, but like if you really want to master the level, you got to figure out like the best way to like move between the stunts and combine them all together. So it's really addicting for that. It's got a really good prevention style to it. It rewards you at the end of each level too. Well, not each level, at the end of each like world of the movie, by showing a edited together trailer of each of what the movie would be in this world, with your actual stunts in it. So that's a really nifty like additional thing. You can save replays, all that stuff, like all that kind of thing that like really encourages you to do well. And then, like you said, there's some additional modes that we can get into, which some still accessible to this day, some could have been like fleshed out more maybe, and then others that, because there's no online multiplayer anymore, are just left in the past. But
there's so much here to even dive into already. One thing that piqued my interest was how you are, rewarded for... I think maybe even how you put it was threading the needle, or like having like a close call, or taking a risk really in some of these stunts of getting additional points. That sounds like so much fun. And it also sort of has like a practical application, because in theory, that being captured on film would look even cooler or more dangerous. Yeah.
No, I think, like you said, like it's not realistic that a stunt team would just let you run an entire 5-minute series, like unless that was the goal of it. And these are not realistic looking sets. Like the first world is a disaster movie of like the volcanoes are exploding, rivers of lava, all this stuff. There's no way in hell to like make a set like that. Like, you are just racing through like a town where half of it's under lava and there's exploding cars everywhere. So you're doing that. There's that element of just like it already looks and feels like you're in the actual scene of the movie, as opposed to how you would actually set up a production. But it just earnestly keeps you in that world by like playing to just committing to it. Like you forget about it that way. And also just that's the funnest version of this game anyway. It wouldn't be very fun to just practice a car crash over and over to get it just right and then move on to the next stunt. You're doing it all in one go.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I would love to know if you can remember, did playing the game, was there any learning curve for you back when you first got into it, or even replayed it when it came to just gameplay in general?
Yeah. Well, sort of my pitch of this game is that it pretty much is its own learning curve in a sense, because even if you're good at racing games, even if you're good at like that type of fine-tuning game, you still have to learn the level a little bit. There's some trial and error, like you might get really lucky your first time through a level, but most likely you're going to want to remember this stunt's coming up, this stunt's following after, all that type of thing. So there's a little bit of appeal that I see why some people are into speedrunning in that sense, because you are like figuring out the best route, mastering it, really honing your skills. Of course, I don't have time or like the patience for that type of real speed running, but a whole level based on it, like that's kind of been like, in the community factor of it too has been fun. I feel like that's kind of what the appeal of that Nintendo World Championship game was a little bit too. Like, you don't actually want to speed run Super Mario Bros., but you can speed run specific elements and get better and better and compete against other people. This is more solo of that, but it's still that idea of like you're mastering a level and you're fine tuning it, and it feels.
You know what this also reminds me of, Hearn, is Neon White.
Yes, that's fair too.
In a way, total different like kind of approach to it, but a similar sort of thing you're fighting towards as a goal.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little more linear, I would say, than because Neon White you can figure out different paths. This you really are mastering a path, and there's like little fine tuning things you can do in between. But yes, I think there is that element of, I even compare it a little bit to Hitman World of Assassination of like, you are challenging yourself to perfect like a level or your goal for a level so well. Replaying it is very important. So again, very good that the sequel made sure that when you restart a level, it's lickety split and fast and immediate as opposed to having to reload and wait. So you can mess up, you can realize you're messing up in the middle of it, take pause and restart it. All that stuff, and it doesn't take a second. So it's very, very easy to get like just be like one more run, like all those roguelike games we like to do to you. So that's the general like gameplay loop that appeals to me, and you're learning it and you're feeling better about it, and it does a good job at advancing what you've learned. Like you'll learn how to do a specific type of stunt, like how to pop your car up on two wheels, and that'll be included in the next level. Or you'll build up and be like, okay, then the final level of this world will have all the types of stunts you've learned. So I think it's just good with the level design for that too, to like always make sure you're learning something that can make not just the stunts look cooler, but like you get better as a gamer at it. And sometimes it's really cool to like knock out the challenge on your first try that way.
That's fun. Something else that stuck out to me about this game was how much fun the developers seem to have with the setting and the scenes that are here. And they, I believe, I want to say all of 6 of them are their sort of own homage to different types of action movies and stunt sequences in them. For example, there's the Night... the Night Avenger, what's he called?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, who's essentially a Batman-like character that you're doing stunt scenes for.
Yeah, straight up the Dark Knight homage. With like you ride similar motorcycles, the clown villain of it all.
Yes.
And again, you can kind of parse a story a little bit. Obviously, it's very loose and goofy, but you can parse a story through the level progressions too a little bit.
Cool.
Even though you're only doing the action stuff. But like, yeah, the Night Avenger, you're starting with doing some Batman-y stuff, and then the end, like the last level is you thwarting the big Joker villain from getting away, and that's just cool that they like thought of it that way too. Because again, not actual realistic production, they probably don't do it in order stuff all the time like that. But yeah, there's a Bond-ish level.
Yes.
I'm gonna look it up. Never Kill Me Again. Again, they're
the
having
titles
fun
are so cheeky in a really fun way.
There's a Dukes of Hazzard one, which is a sequel to one that they had in the original Stuntman called a Whoopin' and a Howrin'. Whoopin' and a Howrin' 2 in this one. There's the Aftershock, which is the disaster one with exploding things. There's Overdrive, which is more of like a general like Fast and Furious racing, and Strike Force Omega is kind of a different spy one. Okay. Like maybe military one. And like I think like I said, they all have their own differences. You can sometimes be on different vehicles. Sometimes you'll be riding a regular car or like a really fast sports car. Sometimes you'll be on a motorcycle. Sometimes you'll be on a really big truck hauling a giant rocket. So like sometimes the like feel of the level and the feel of the like driving will vary, and some of the flexibility will be either like more beneficial or taken away. Like when you're in a giant truck, you have a lot less ability to like really freestyle as much as you might want to, so it can be tougher. And then the stunts are like adjusted accordingly. And then, like I said, there's like little details of like the fun of like that. Like the Bond levels feel very different than the Batman levels, where they're lit differently. They have different jokes or different villains. The directors sound different, and they will say different things. And yeah, it's like very, very easy to get lost in replaying these games because you can just want to hear or see the differences in each level and each stuff.
Nice. The different vehicles sounds like another way they could add so much variety to just at least the it provides such a different experience because they handle differently. That's awesome. Hearn, I'd love to, since we've gotten so much great detail about the game already, I want to start to dig into more of the context from your life when you would have played this game. So what I want to start with is a scene painting exercise with you. If you could sort of paint the room of where your 360 would have been set up when you would have been playing this game. Like, what was that room like? What are some details in there?
All right, this would have been my living room in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in my family home. We would have the systems like the PlayStation 2, the Xbox 360, the Wii, late 2000s. And then the big thing, I guess, for me is that this would have been a little before, and this is why this is a good game for this show and just game for talking about differences in gaming. This was a little before I moved out to LA.
Okay.
And this was a little bit before the official gap in gaming that I had, where I didn't really play much on the PS3. I didn't have a Wii U. Just in between Xbox 360 and PS4, I had kind of just I'm here in LA trying to do my LA things, and I have some like nostalgic gaming going on. Like I brought my Nintendo 64 out with me for just shits and giggles, and I would occasionally play some other games with people, but like mainly I was trying to start a new life in a new city.
It's so relatable, dude.
Yeah, I think a lot of people on this pod will have something similar to that. So this was like the last hurrah of gaming for me before I paused it for a bit, where I was renting games from Blockbuster for Xbox 360, PS2, Wii, playing them at home, me, my sister, my friends, just gaming and enjoying my summers that way until life came a calling.
Yeah.
But so that was my big experience with it, playing it that time. And then the recent replay I had of this is me, like literally this year, 2025. I'm engaged. I'm in a house in Silver Lake with my fiance. I'm trying out emulation for games that we can play together and we can figure out together. And I dig up an old favorite that I haven't played in forever, that I remember being all the way through and wondering if it holds that place in my heart, and I 100%ed the hell out of it all over again on my computer. And it's just, sometimes you can go home, that's kind of the message. But just that like games are the certain type of games that are always there for you and you didn't realize it was kind of like my nostalgic touch back to this.
That's great.
That's
I love that, dude.
That I have. Thank you.
I also, it's the reality that not every game that we hold a sentimental place for, or just a place of enjoyment for in our memory and our hearts, the reality of that is it's not always going to hold up when we revisit it. This is something that you and I probably, and people like us, experience often because we're often just diving back into retro titles or revisiting games that we do care about. And not every game that I love from my past is necessarily good to great, or is the exact game that I remember in my mind from that time. So I say all of that to say that it's lovely when you do revisit a game and you're like, wow, this really hits the same today for me. Not that it has like any weight on your life, but it is satisfactory, I guess.
Yes. And I mean, I'm sure you have the experience too with your partner where you want to show a game to your partner and you realize there's like accessibilities or dated elements that like make it tough to like go back to a little bit unless you have that knowledge so ingrained in you, or unless you like can know that coming ahead and you can bear with it. So sometimes that's tricky too. This was a different scenario, obviously a single player game that I played by myself, but she did get to watch me play it a little bit. She found some of it interesting and goofy. She complained a lot about like the HUD. She was like, "Why are all these stickers on the screen? They're blocking your view." And
sure.
I'm like, "You have no idea. I need this to know what I'm doing and where I'm going." And
yes.
I'm just used to it. I'm focused on the action, so it's an amusing game to like play in front of someone to see how they react. But yeah, that definitely holds up. This was also a game I tend to recommend it every now and then when I'm like at best that's about 360 games, or best like when it goes on sale. I pointed out but I'm always like, I haven't played this in a while. I wonder if it does hold up. Replaying it, I'm like, yes, cool. I love it. It holds a special place in my heart, and it has like that type of rigid meaning to me. So I was happy to be able to, when you asked me what game, this came up immediately. So
I love it. I want to do a little more poking and prodding at that sort of original. I know. Oh, sorry, Hearn. I forgot how sensitive you were to the poking and prodding.
Yeah.
I wanted to just ask a couple more details about that original time back in Philadelphia when you would have been playing it. You'd given me great context that like this was kind of, it was the period of time in your life before you were moving out to LA. So if we can go back there mentally, what are some details about your life that you remember then? Were you working a specific job? Were you going to, I don't know, were you in like community college? Were you and your like mom or sister doing something specific together? What comes to mind?
I guess I was more into film school than I was.
Okay.
And I mean, then I was. I still am technically.
Yeah.
But
you're back, baby.
I'm back. Hey, full circle. But yes, I was probably at that point officially starting film school, and I guess there's a little bit of humor too. That Stuntman Ignition is obviously all these action homages, and I'm going to art school, like film school, thinking about arty films and being very serious and stuff.
Yes.
And this maybe kept a little bit of my heart alive inside, where I'm like, but I also love Terminator 2 and action movies and John Woo films. So that's a fun element to think about.
Where did you go for film school originally?
I went to Temple University in Philadelphia.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And again, still figuring stuff out, because this would have been early, so I didn't know exactly what path. I've ended up making a senior thesis film there.
Yeah.
And that was my path. But yeah, like I think I knew I loved film. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with it. The obvious dream being like direct, but I still didn't know what that meant or what capacity. I didn't know if I could write, stuff like that. So I think a lot of me being in film school was just seeing different things and learning from them and finding out what I really dug. And then like gaming was still involved in my life, but I knew that wasn't going to be like my career or my goal path, my full calling. But again, having that in my back pocket of like, this is how I want, or this is how I have fun, or this is something else that speaks to me. And it was a fun coincidental that like a game about movies played into that.
Yeah, at the same time that you are in film school, you know, being exposed to so much, developing your taste too in your art, and like maybe even just shaping some of your, I guess, artistic tools as well. That's amazing, dude. This was sort of like a, if I can draw a little bit of a conclusion or just echo what you were saying, it was a tie to like the fun kind of movies. I remember too, going to it's funny how much that you and I just have in common in our past, but I also went to college for film, and I remember I never steered too far into this, but like I definitely became a little more pretentious, or like like you were saying, you're exposed to so many artsy films that you might not be as just someone going through your regular life in our culture. So it's always great to have to keep those ties to other elements of film that are fun, because artsy movies and the most pretentious Oscar bait stuff can be phenomenal, and so can very campy or very action focused or silly things too.
And yes, I agree with all that, and I think maybe you can relate this to the idea of even just filming as like a fun thing to do was more in our like younger film school era years, where you could just get a couple of students run around town, film something, especially when you're not in LA and it's cheaper.
Yes,
you're not actually butting heads with like industry people, and you're just doing it for the sake of it. Now it's harder to do, and you gotta like really be professional and really figure it out and really do well by the people you want to do by. Just and you know, you should, but it's also like there is a nostalgia of like, I have this like film assignment to do, I have a dumb idea, let me get a couple classmates and do it. And that's a sense of like the camaraderie and like the random like cooperation
Yes.
of filmmaking that, you know, hopefully at the end of the day you still get back to when you're like on a film set or doing something fun with friends.
Yeah, I think the thing that you're making me think of is sort of the innocence and the I don't know, bravery or just like go get 'em nature that we maybe would have had at a younger age. And it's not that that's lost on us now, but we know how to do things professionally. So it's really now it's about, I think, molding those two things together, or combining the like professionalism and the know-how with the passion and the fun as well. If I could draw that conclusion.
No, you're allowed to. It's your pod. But no, yeah, and you're absolutely accurate. And again, like talking about like levels of like mirroring the two sides of yourself. I definitely was more pretentious in art school, and then when I came out to LA, one of the first things after like I did some PA, started working, I got into UCB, and that made me realize I can be funny too, and I can figure out how to marry the two and figure out how to like get my messages across more fun, or like figure out like more fun ideas.
Sure.
And that opens up creativity, and that definitely is something, again, there's a community aspect to that was important, of getting the feedback and getting to see how other people are doing it. So yeah, that I think if there, again, drawing a finish line to a single player game from 20 years ago, but it's still like just a good callback of like fine tuning your abilities and fine tuning like what you get out of something and just seeing the rewards.
That's awesome, dude. I feel like you've already sort of summarized so well what this game could do for someone. But before we close out the segment, though, I'm going to go back to those two questions I teed you up for off mic. The first of which, is there any detail about the game or that time in your life that you haven't touched on yet that you'd like to bring up now?
Just a little bit of Lost Past, which again, of the game itself, that again, it's kind of a shame it's the last of the series and they haven't revisited this well, because I feel like it could do pretty well. It wouldn't be too hard to make, and could make it in the indie style. And we're in a like roguelike world now where people are more expecting a game to be something that you can do a run or two a day of or something. But they haven't made a new one, even though it's kind of like a never-ending idea, so they should. But also the two elements of it that I can't really do much with anymore nowadays are, there was a multiplayer mode where it was racing and doing stunts against other people. I never got to really experience it back in the day, like maybe once or twice, and now you can't, so that's a shame. Want to see how that would go. And then the other thing is there's construction element in it, like a side game where you can make your own stunt levels, and there's even like a challenge to it in a couple of areas where they want you to like build a level and complete these objectives in it in your own way, which is a cool, flexible little idea. And again, a sequel could easily have something like that as well, where a community, we would build levels and people could download and play them. Like, and I feel like it's very easy for this to make a modern version. Like, I feel like there's an audience for it, there's a method to it, there's accessibility to it, and there's an immediate communal aspect to it. The only tough part being, of course, that like, if it's not indie or if it's not something that grabs people, it might be dead on arrival, which is a shame for all those aspects I was talking about. But I would love to see another swing at it. It means that much to me. And also I think this is a decent world for it, where people can get into like these kind of weird swings.
Yeah, that's great. Well, to close this out, buddy, I know you've kind of been framing this up really well throughout this discussion, but would you just sort of summarize the place that Stuntman Ignition held for you?
Definitely was in the last hurrah of like just trying out games for the sake of trying out games, trying out like seeking passion, seeking individual, like just my own interests and curiosities before, you know, having more of a community to draw on or to compare with or contrast. And the hope too is that I am able to like share this with people and pitch it to people and like see what their reactions are, see what communal aspect can get out of it. So I think it's, and then the latest part of it being obviously for this year is getting back into revisiting games for the sake of it with emulation, like finding out games I haven't tried before, trying out all sorts of ways to play games and like really revisit like my past, and not just that, but like find games I might have missed out on at that time. Especially during a time where we're still like, adults with other hobbies and other responsibilities and passions, and need to save money or need to like make it just a hobby or slot out time. So
yeah,
I think it's just good to know that, like, again, there's always a surprise game or a game that you can go back to that means something to you in those modes.
That's awesome, dude. Well, hey, we got a couple fun things to do before we go, but thank you so much for bringing on Stuntman Ignition, Hearn. This was awesome to hear from you.
You're welcome.
There we go again.
You're welcome.
Well, to close things out, I've got 2 fun post-show segments, the first of which is the Fact Me by Your Game segment, where I just share a fun fact with you about the game you brought on today. This fun fact comes from GameDeveloper.com blogger Chris Remo did a blog about what the subject I'm about to get into. I have this titled Dark Days for THQ. Now, Hearn, we were talking about how this game was the last in its series and it wasn't a commercial success. Well, it turns out that not a lot THQ was doing at the time was commercially successful or was doing very well. This game was released during a tumultuous period for the publisher THQ in 2007, but by 2008, THQ would go on to make significant cuts to its development staff and closed multiple studios, including the former LA-based studio called Mass Media, unrelated to this game, but owned by the same publisher, who would eventually be purchased by 2K Games and develop titles such as Darksiders. But that original run for Mass Media ended at the same time that the parent company for Stuntman did as well.
Yeah, no, I think THQ did get defunct eventually, if I'm correct. And
yes.
Yeah, that is that era of you do want Jade Swings to stand out and do stuff, but it's less feasible in the indie sphere today, where if someone messes up, you still have chances. That is like, they probably had too many of them and didn't work out.
That's exactly what it seems like from doing research, is that it was just almost everything was going wrong for them or wasn't succeeding in the way that they had hoped. Again,
I did my part.
See, you're doing your part.
I did my part. I paid for that DLC.
There we go. So I'll include a link to this blog post in the show notes under the episode citations area. But this will lead us to the final segment of the podcast, the game recommendations. Now, Hearn, you might remember that this is my forced tie-in to the movie Call Me By Your Name, where I am going to treat Stuntman Ignition as your passionate summer fling in Italy. And unfortunately, like the movie, that relationship's not going to work out and you're going to have to move on from this game. So in order to help you get over this deep heartbreak of your separation from Stuntman Ignition, I am going to introduce you to 3 potential new flings that all have something in common with your game in order to help you just get back out there. But Hearn, that begs the question, are you ready?
I think I am, Connor.
Okay. All right. That's all I needed to hear, buddy. So I'll go ahead and get through these 3 recommendations. The first of which is, if instead of doing 6 stunts in the specific way that the director wants you to, if you just want to do some crazy big crashes while driving vehicles, I'll recommend a game I'm almost sure you've played. That's Burnout 3.
I've actually been pretty thin on the Burnout series, funnily enough. That is a game series that you can parallel easily to, but I only one I really saw through is Burnout Paradise. And I have the older ones, always been meaning to revisit. I've heard 3 is the best one, or that or Revenge, and I've got that in my backlog from forever ago. I definitely should invest.
All right.
in that.
Well, hey, that might be a potential really good, I guess,
I'm like,
connection
hey,
for you.
Stuntman, do you have a sister?
Oh, Burnout 3, do you have a sister?
Yeah.
Now, in this game, in Burnout, Stuntman Ignition, because that's the game you brought on today, you are constantly doing what you are told. You're listening to the director, you're making certain moves, you're doing the exact stunts you're being asked of. If that's your thing, if you're like, ooh, tell me what to do, I'll recommend a little game called BioShock where, spoiler alert, turns out you're doing what you're told the whole time.
Oh, man. I have not replayed BioShock in quite some time. I ought to. I also been getting back into the System Shock games.
That's right.
Remastered recently. Those are good games.
Yeah.
I gotta replay it.
And finally, Hearn, and when I say if, I know this to be true about you. You're a movies guy. Movies are your number one passion. It's all you really care about. Then I have one recommendation for you that is sure to hit. And that is, of course, Universal Studios Theme Park Adventure for the Nintendo GameCube. Basically what was a launch title.
Ooh.
Have you played this game before?
I have not. I've been to the theme park. Do they have Waterworld and everything in there? I should check that out.
I don't know if they have Waterworld in this game. This was one that when my best friend growing up got his GameCube, they got a bunch of games, including this title, and it is one quite strange sort of like theme park exploration game. And it's because this came out in 2001, everything in the game is based on the park at that time. So it's kind of a bit of a time capsule to jump back to the old Universal Studios.
Cool.
Yeah,
no, that sounds real promising. And guess what? Emulation, I don't have to spend a cent on it.
There we go.
Check it out.
Well, that'll wrap up our recommendations. I'll recap them really quick. We have Burnout 3, BioShock, and Universal Studios Theme Park Adventure. That'll do it for the Rex, and that will bring us to the end of the show. So before we go and do some more plugs on our way out, once again, Hearn, thanks for coming back, buddy. This was great having you on the pod.
Yeah, great to be back. It's been a bit, and did walk down memory lane for these games, which was the whole reason I even replayed it. So,
heck yeah. Well, you plugged your website up top. Do you want to plug it again on your way out?
Sure. You can look at my website, michaelchearn.com, which has my short films and ways to contact me, and you can follow me on Blue Sky at MCHearn.
Awesome. I'll put a link to your website and your Blue Sky account in the show notes. Those will also be next to all of the plugs that I have here. The cover art for Call Me By Your Game is done by the artist Glenn J. His Instagram, where you can find other great works that he's done, is in a link in the show notes. You can follow the podcast all over social media. We're on Blue Sky, Instagram, and of course have a YouTube version of this show if you want to watch us on video every single week. You can see both of us just having a great old time and being so handsome on this episode. So check us out there. This podcast is produced, edited, and the original music that you hear throughout is done by Jeremy Schmidt. You can thank him for his hard work on this podcast by listening to his show, Video Games, a Comedy Show, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow me on Blue Sky if you'd like. You can follow the network as well at Super NPC Radio on Blue Sky and Instagram. And once again, folks, if you like the podcast that I do and the discussions I have with people about video games, and you want to either support us and or get bonus video game podcasts for your support, check us out on patreon.com/supernpcradio. We have a bunch of tiers there with a variety of offers for bonuses by supporting us. So yeah, check us out there. You get a link to our Discord as well, where you can talk to me and Hearn and other friends about video games or movies or sports, whatever you really want to. But yeah, check us out on Patreon. That's a great way to support the podcast. But that'll do it for the end of another episode of Call Me By Your Game. We will see you on the next one.